everybody, welcome to the Wednesday live stream. My name's Joe Casabona, and I am very excited to have a special guest here on the live stream. Her name is Lesley Sim, and you could see her. Lesley, how are you today?
Hey, Joe, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on. Super excited to do this. A little bit nervous. First time doing a live stream.
Awesome. Well, no problem. I am a veteran at messing up at live streams, so if anything goes wrong, I've probably handled it before. My friends always joke that my superpower is like shaking off awkward because I put my foot in my mouth a lot. I just kind of say whatever I'm thinking, and then I need to recover from that. So I think we'll be good. I have all the confidence in the world, and I'm really excited about this because I've been following you for a little bit. I think since you appeared on the Matt Report, and I've been very curious about newsletter glue, and so I'm excited to get this demo. But before we do that, first of all, thanks to everybody watching. I appreciate you being here on a Wednesday morning with us. Of course, for Lesley, it's a Wednesday night, right? It's still the same day, but
Yeah, we're
okay.
12 hours.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us late. I'd be in bed by this point already. So, but before we dive into that, if you enjoy these live streams, be sure to subscribe. This one I will probably edit and re-release as an edited video, but most of the live streams are gone after the stream. They get unlisted and they are only available for members. So if you want to get notified when I go live, subscribe, click that bell, I think is what the kids say these days. Or if you do want to get the archive, you can join my membership over at buildsomething.club. So those are the two shameless promotion things. The last thing, of course, is that super chats and super stickers are enabled. So if you want to support the things Lesley and I are doing today, you can, throw a buck at us, watch my lights go crazy. I'll set them to white so that you can see them blink if you do a super chat or a super sticker. So, okay. So, Lesley, you are
Yes.
the founder and developer of Newsletter Glue. Do you want to tell us what that is?
Yeah, so I'm a co-founder. My other co-founder is the developer. And I do the business and the marketing and product side of things. Yeah, so Newsletter Glue is a way that you can publish your newsletters in WordPress the same way that you publish your blog posts. So we create a separate newsletter editor, and we've kind of customized it to make it, more special for newsletters. And yeah, so that way you can write your blog post in WordPress, you can write your newsletters in WordPress, and you don't have to be switching between, for example, WordPress and ConvertKit or WordPress and MailChimp while you're in the zone. Like you can just bust out all your content in one shot and save a bunch of time and hopefully write better content that gets discovered. Because if you're posting your newsletters online as well, that means that they will all be discoverable via search engines, and you can use your favorite SEO plugins to optimize and all the good stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I gotta say, I use and love ConvertKit, but I fight their editor a lot. So I know you and I spoke about this offline, and I don't know how much of your roadmap is public, but if you're working on ConvertKit integration, I will happily beta test that for you, because I've been doing a lot more long form writing in my newsletters, and I was very much maybe before we get into the demo, we can discuss this really quick. I was very much in the camp of people subscribe to my newsletter for a reason, and I don't want to make that public, because then what's the point of them subscribing to the newsletter? But now I'm kind of thinking, I'm doing all this long form writing. It's really good, I think. And people are subscribing not only to get, this exclusive content, but to get notified that it's available, to get it delivered to them, or to get the special deals and the auxiliary stuff that comes with joining the newsletter. So obviously, I think I think I know the way you think, but I'd love to hear your opinion on that. Like, should newsletter content stay in the newsletter, or should it get published, publicly as well?
I think ultimately it's a business decision. So like depends on how you've kind of set up your business and what how you decide to monetize. So you've got the camp of people who like within 6 months or less are making 20K off like paid newsletters,
Wow.
and that's like super awesome. And yeah, and so like those guys, they don't even have that many subscribers. I mean, I'm going to throw a random number out there, but like I think you can get to 20K with like under 5K subscribers, right? And so so you've got those guys, right? And they're like, we're going to monetize our newsletter, and so like it's members only, paywall, blah 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 blah. But then you've got the other extreme, with people like the Hustle, and they've got like a million plus subscribers, and they're like, we are never going to paywall the Hustle. We're going to have a separate newsletter that's paid, and that's like a separate community and all that, and that's called Trends, I think. And so like our main one is always going to be free, and we're just going to get as many subscribers humanly possible. Like everyone in the world that has email, like we want subscribing. So I guess it ultimately just comes down to your business model and how you want to make money.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If for example, I subscribe to the Dispatch. It's a Substack newsletter, and they they make their money off of their exclusive content, right? And some of it's free, but a lot of it is you have like the first paragraph, and then it's like join the membership, and so yeah, that's a really good point. If you're monetizing your newsletter and you make that money off of exclusivity, you don't want to just make that public. So cool. Well, I am excited because I think this is going to help me go in a different direction. I do have a members only newsletter that I can make available to the members, of course, and then I have this other free content that is there's a lot of it, and putting out a bunch of content every week is hard, and I might as well take advantage of the SEO juice there too. So I'm going to bring up your screen here, and what we're going to do from here on out is you're going to set up newsletter glue on a staging version of casabona.org. We are live streaming, but we're not playing with a live site for a bunch of reasons. But yeah, so I'm excited for this. Anybody, if you're watching and you have any questions, I'll be watching the comments and the chat. So if you do have any questions for Lesley or me, drop them in here and I'll bring them up on the screen and we can get them answered. Sound good? All right.
Awesome. Okay, so here is the site, and we're at the plugin page right now. So I'm just gonna add new. So I thought like it'd be good to bring people through what it feels like if they've just bought the plugin for the first time and are about to upload it. This is kind of the experience that they'll get. So we're gonna install the plugin.
The installing and activating stuff on a staging site, those are the things that you can edit out with the magic of a non-live video, right? But we can fill
Cue
these.
elevator music.
Yeah, I got some live stream music here. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we've successfully activated the plugin, and this is what it looks like the first time you activate the plugin. You get taken to our onboarding wizard, and over here it's just kind of like an easy way to get up and running. And if everything's kind of set up correctly, you don't really have to ever go into the settings again to mess with that stuff. So that's just a license key for our site. I'm gonna have to remember to get rid of that license and make it unavailable later on. But yeah, so like once you've installed your license and added your license key, we go to add new connection. And so here is where you can add your email service provider. Today we're going to be using MailChimp. And one thing, and I guess Joe mentioned it earlier on as well, we are planning to integrate with ConvertKit hopefully end of June. So Nathan Barry actually reached out to me maybe a month or 2 months ago and said that they were working on creating the necessary API endpoints to allow us to integrate with them. And so I've been talking to the team and told them exactly what we needed, and I think they've been building it. So yeah, really looking forward to that. It's one of the more highly requested ESPs that we should integrate with. So pretty much the moment they're done, we're going to be all over it.
Yes, that's awesome. So actually, you just mentioned something here that I'm curious about. ESPs. Is that generally the term? Because I am always curious about what to call ConvertKit generally. So email service provider is, I guess, what ESP stands for, right?
Yeah. And so email service provider is like the ESP acronym is what a lot of people use. I feel like email marketing or email marketing platform is also appropriate.
Okay.
But if you hear the term or hear the letters ESP bandied around, that's what it means.
Gotcha.
So that's different from transactional email like AWS, SES, SendGrid. Those guys are more like if you've lost your password and you want like that kind of email sent, then that's transactional email.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right. And we are not showing your screen on the stream at the moment if you want to put in any other API keys that you're going to need to put in here.
Thanks. Yep. Okay, so I'm just putting in the MailChimp and we're connected. So I guess we can share my screen again.
Bring the screen back. Yes. That's the wisdom of experience of exposing API keys multiple times on this live stream.
Yep. So it's connected, and we can hit the next button. So once we've connected API key, we automatically take your audience and segment /tag/list from your ESP. And so in our case, you can see that we've already got the stuff showing up here. And if you want to create a new one, you can create a new one inside MailChimp itself. But for now, let's just keep it as this. So this is our default audience. So every time we create a new newsletter, this is who it's going to be sent to. And you can always change this later in the settings. Likewise, these are kind of the default stuff that you're going to need for every single newsletter. And so we just kind of get this out of the way at the start. And so you don't have to deal with it later on. So I'm happy with that. And here's a video of me showing you how to set up newsletter glue. So obviously we're not going to have to watch that since I'm doing that for you right now. So let's click on try demo post. And okay, cue elevator music again.
Well, we do have a chat from, I'm sorry if I'm going to say this poorly, Noches de Blogging. Hi, Joe and Leslie, here, a newsletter glue user, thanks to my friend Antonio Cambronero. By the way, Alberto, I guess I should have read the whole comment. Alberto, thanks for joining us today and last week. I'm really stoked that you can make it to the live streams. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for the kind words about newsletter glue.
Yeah, super glad to hear you and glad that you're here to join us. And I must thank Antonio as well, who's been a huge supporter and great customer of Newsletter Glue since like right from the beginning. And he's done a live stream of Newsletter Glue as well in Spanish. So thanks, Antonio.
Nice. I will see if we can find a link to that, and I'll link it in the description for this video once it's all edited up.
Okay, so after we've done the onboarding, we get taken to a test post. And this kind of doubles up as a way for you to learn a little bit more about Newsletter Glue. So we give you 3 quick tips, but then also you can use this to send your first test email. So we're just going to skip all of this stuff because, again, I'm here explaining it to you so you don't have to look at it. And scroll right to the bottom and you'll see newsletter, glue, send as newsletter. And this is kind of the box where most things, like all the important stuff happens. So the subject is always pulled from your blog post title. So the moment you write something in here, it just gets auto-filled in here, and you can change it if you like, but this way it's just one less thing to do. Preview text is that little bit of grayed out text that shows up after your subject line in your email inbox. So feel free to write something here if you want. I'll just write, "Hi, Joe." Audience and segment tags. So if you recall, this is the stuff that we filled in during the onboarding visit. So from now on, all this stuff will be pre-populated for you. And so if you're happy with it, you don't ever have to touch it again. And lastly is the testing parts. So we have two options for you to test. The first is to send yourself a test email, which I'm just going to go ahead and do right now. And while we wait, I'll also show you what it looks like when we preview the email in a browser. And so that opens up in a new tab. Cool. Yeah, so here's the email, or here's the post, and here's how it'll show up in your email inbox as well. Okay, let's see, oops. I'm gonna try to share because the test emails arrived, so I'm gonna attempt to share just the test email and see if that works.
All right, sounds good. While we do that,
Joe. It works now.
perfect,
can you
perfect.
share my screen again?
Yes, yeah, great. What app are you
Cool.
using?
I don't know if I'm being
email?
too ambitious with my window switching. This is Newton.
Oh, nice.
Newton.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Can I actually can we have a quick digression here? I'm just gonna switch back to our mode.
Yeah.
Because Newton is under new management now, and I feel like I was bitten by them too many times. To like, I never want to give them money again. But how have things been? It's been about 6 months, right? I think since the new management took over. Have things been?
I think slightly more.
Slightly more. Okay, so like, have things been better?
Yep.
Okay, because I was like very upset with them.
I became a customer after they were bought over, so I can't say what it was like before that. I'd say so. They've made like some. I mean, they're the guys who also make Yak, YAC,
Okay.
which is like a asynchronous chat app, I think. And so I think like that's their full-time job, and they do this on the side because they also love Newton.
Okay.
And so they've made some improvements to the email client, and they've like been fixing bugs. But I can't say that they're like, we are on this. We're going to make this into the next superhuman or hey or anything like that.
Okay.
So I guess like expectations managed, but it's also a lot cheaper than those email clients. So,
all right, good to know. Thanks for that. We can switch back to your screen. I was just generally curious. And actually, you have answered 2 questions that I've already had, right? Because I've got a bunch of different segments. They're called. I've got a bunch of different segments in ConvertKit. And I was wondering how easy it would be to switch between those segments. And I suspect that that's probably part of part of the API endpoints that they're making available.
Yeah. So it's going to be super easy. I'll show you how that's done in a moment. But yeah, for those watching and wondering what emails look like when they're sent via us, this is what they look like. So it's super simple. It basically looks like a blog post, a simple blog post. This is how YouTube videos get shown, embedded. And if you're on the MailChimp free account like I am, then you'll get this whole big footer from MailChimp, and you don't have a choice, which is fine. I mean, that's the trade-off for using their free account. So yeah, so now I'm going to switch back to the plugin window. Sorry, Joe.
No problem.
Making you
This
work
is
hard.
this is why I have the Stream Deck, to make things like this super easy, and it'll make editing a lot easier later too. So no worries about that. All right.
Cool. Okay, so we are back in the WordPress setup. And so Joe, to answer your question, if you want to switch between segments and tags, you can just click on this stuff. So this pulls up all your different segments and tags. So let's say you've got like a membership tier and a free tier, and you've just written a membership or members only newsletter, then you can select that. So super easy.
Awesome. And then my other question is, it looks like there's a pretty set template here. If you have, like, because I think in MailChimp you can choose different designs, and in ConvertKit you can choose different templates. Is there a way currently or on the roadmap to be able to customize those templates?
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to show you right now.
Nice. I guess I should just let you do the presentation, right? I'm like jumping the gun.
No, I mean, you're helping, right? Because like this is exactly what people listening or watching are probably thinking as well. So let me leave site. So don't care about all this stuff. Okay, so what you saw was what happens if you, or what it looks like when you send a post, or send a post as a newsletter. So this is kind of where we are. But what we also have, and this section is still in beta, but we have a separate newsletter editor. And this is pretty new. I think we launched it maybe 2 weeks ago now. And the reason we did that is because a lot of people have super fancy, super crazy post setups, post editor setups. Like, in your case, you have Beaver Builder, but like imagine if someone has Beaver Builder or Elementor and like a whole bunch of, or in your case, Genesis blocks, and they want to build an entire newsletter with those blocks, thinking that it's possible. And then they try to do that, and then they send their newsletter and they're like, oh, it's broken, it doesn't work. And the reason is that it's not that it doesn't work, it's just that Genesis blocks and all these page builder plugins, they are optimized for the web. They're not optimized for email. So you're just kind of, putting a house in a river and asking why it doesn't float.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So so by having like a separate newsletter editor, we've been able to control the experience a lot more and make the experience more intuitive. And so we avoid having people wonder like, why isn't it working? I've like done this amazing page builder newsletter and it's not loading properly and doesn't look nice. So instead, we just do everything in the newsletter editor. We've removed a lot of stuff, and it's just kind of a simpler experience. And as you can see, it looks identical to the blog editor as well. So, people are going to be familiar with how it looks, but at the same time, hopefully it turns out better, I guess.
Nice. And while you're mentioning that, I just want to mention a website called
Yep.
caniemail.com. It's very similar to caniuse.com if anybody's heard of that, but it basically tells you what email clients, like what web features are supported by email clients. So if you're wondering, like, can I do this thing in the block editor and send it via email? Can I email might help with that. To have a better understanding of like what email clients support versus what browsers actually support. Of course, there's probably still the problem of like sending a bunch of CSS to an email client, right? Like you have these custom blocks that require CSS from the theme or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to go into settings right now and show you how you can set up the newsletter theme designer. And this is kind of similar to like a blog theme thing, but way simpler just because newsletters by nature are much simpler. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, so this is the newsletter theme designer. It's loading a bit funny. Okay, there we go. So we've got like desktop and mobile. So there are certain things that you want to tweak for the mobile version. You can do that. And let me just go through stuff quickly so that you can kind of have an idea of what options you have. So you can choose an email background. Let's make it crazy, as well as an email container. So if you're a crazy person, this could be your newsletter. Or if you're an awesome person, right? This might be the newsletter of a super awesome.
Yeah, right. I like choosing the crazy colors when I'm testing stuff like that. But, just because it's easier to see. But my first website was like a black background with red text. Back when I was like 14. So I'm familiar with the poor color contrast choices that one might choose.
I'm sure at that age you probably had like the web counter as well, and like the scrolling text and all of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so funny. Yeah, GeoCities.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just about to reminisce about GeoCities, but we can do that.
Yeah, same. I feel like that could be an hour-long live stream by itself.
The nostalgia stream.
Yeah, okay, so you can pick your font. We've got super basic fonts, and we purposely limited them just so it's going to work for all email clients, and you're not going to get stuck like with a super funky font that only loads in Newton, for example, and not anywhere else. So let's stick with Arial. You can choose your header colors. So let's just go ahead and do this so that we can see it later on. Yeah, so basically you have a bunch of different theme options. And importantly, we also have a bunch of newslettery options as well. So you can choose to add a logo at the top of your newsletter if you want. Let's see if you have one. Pick one. Vax to the max.
Vax to the max. Yeah, that's a t-shirt that I sell. You can pick that one. It's like, it's not logo size at all, but I think there's one, if you scroll a little bit further, there's like me. Yeah, right there, the Joe Casabona nice. With the Castro cap. Yeah.
Cool.
If you want that Vax to the Max shirt, you can head over to howibuilt.it/store or /shop. I guess I should know the answer to that. But
yeah, go buy Vax to the Max t-shirts. Okay, so now we've added the logo, and you can choose if you want to have a URL for the logo as well. So, for example, is that right? Casabona.org.
That is correct.
And you can also choose, cool. You can also choose if you want to align it left, right, center, but let's just keep it centered for now. Looks kind of nice and clean that way. You can choose to add a featured image. So if you're the kind of person that dutifully, I'm bad at this, but if you're the kind of person that dutifully adds a featured image to every newsletter, then or every blog post, then this would be an ideal thing for you. It just adds it automatically. Or you can remove it and you'll see that it disappears from here as well. So this just kind of gives you an idea of what your newsletter is going to look like. You can also choose to add a blog post title to the top of each newsletter. In our case, we're going to get rid of that for reasons I will make known later on. And then if you want to be nice and support us, you can add a seamlessly set by newsletter glue at the bottom.
Nice. We have a comment here from Kev Quirk. Recently integrated newsletter glue into my workflow after hearing about it on Page Builder Summit. Game changer for me, and Lesley has been incredibly helpful. Superb plugin, worth every penny. Thanks for the kind words, Kev. This looks amazing. I'm really excited to start using it in my own workflow.
Woohoo! Thanks, Kev. Yeah, Kev has been super cool. We've been talking back and forth ever since the Page Builder Summit by Nathan Rigby, who is also a super cool guy.
Yeah, we were talking about this live stream and you on the This Week in WordPress from WP Build on Monday. So, um, yeah, Nathan and Paul both. They're doing really great work. So definitely check them out as well. And Nathan's the host of the WP Tavern Jukebox podcast as well.
Cool. Yeah, okay, so newsletter theme designer, those are your options. And you're able to kind of create a simple theme for yourself for a newsletter, and it will show up in your newsletter editor, which I'll show you shortly. A couple of other stuff over here. I'll try to go through them super quickly. Email defaults. This is similar to what you set up in the onboarding. So this is basically the default stuff that is auto-filled whenever you create a new newsletter. And again, it just saves you time. Connect is where you put a new connection. So if you're changing from MailChimp to ConvertKit, you can remove the MailChimp connection, which you connected during the onboarding, and change it to ConvertKit once we get connected to them. If not, we have 6 other email service providers that you can also connect to. Newsletter theme designer, we just saw. Newsletter blocks. This is just kind of an option for you to have a look at what custom blocks we have for you. You can see the demos, turn them off if you want, but we're not going to look too much into that right now. Custom CSS. So this is where you can add a bunch of custom stuff to your newsletter. So this will only show up in your newsletter. It's not going to show up in your blog post, for example. And this is for the control freaks out there who want to do super specific stuff. And if you are even more extreme in what you want to do, you can check this box, and that will remove all of the newsletter theme designer styling and all of our default styling as well. And it'll just be like super clean, no CSS at all, and you can just add all your CSS in this box. I wouldn't recommend you check the box unless you are an advanced developer that's super familiar with email development, which is quite different from web development.
Yeah, wow. This is actually something that ConvertKit used to have, but I think they changed with their big redesign and new editor. So I'll be curious to see. I mean, my newsletters are pretty single column images, maybe, YouTube embed, because ConvertKit supports that. But it's really cool to see just how powerful this is, even adding features on top of what ESPs offer, right? Because I mean that's kind of the WordPress way, right? You
Yeah.
Right, you want to be able to customize as much as possible.
Yeah, maximum extendability. Ooh, MailerLite. Cool. We're using MailerLite as well for our project, or for our newsletter. Okay, so this right now has the option to choose which custom post types the newsletter glue features show up in. So if you're the kind of person who has like podcasts on the side here as well and a whole bunch of other special things, and you don't want to be able to send everything as a newsletter and it's just kind of getting in the way and you want to clean up your site a bit, you can choose to add or remove where newsletter glue shows up. So for example, in this case, I doubt Joe wants to send donation forms as a newsletter. And so if this was checked, it would not be very helpful. And so he can just remove it. So that's kind of the thinking behind that.
Awesome.
Just helping you clean up your WordPress admin. And pro license. So this is what we added right at the beginning of the onboarding as well. And so just make sure you've got your license key activated, and so that allows you to get updates, which we are doing super regularly. We release new plugin updates every 2 to 3 weeks, and including bug patches and all that. And so you want to make sure that you've got your license key activated. So that's the settings. I want to move super quickly past them because it's not that it's, they're boring. And I want to talk about templates and styles. So this is, honestly, I wish WordPress had this as a default, a way to build patterns. Because like right now, the only way you can build patterns in WordPress is if you're a developer and you can kind of do it yourself. But we've built like a super simple way for you to build your own patterns and add them to your newsletters. So for those
That's
who aren't familiar
super
with,
cool. Sorry, I've been thinking about that too because I'm redesigning one of my other websites, and I would like block patterns for show notes, and I'm like, do I really want to build a plugin just to add these patterns, or like are reusable blocks better? But like reusable blocks can be global. It's like a whole big thing. So this looks like a super cool feature. I'm excited to see how it works.
thanks, Joe. Actually, CoBlocks lets you save pieces or like bits of your posts and turn them into patterns. But I guess again, that's like a live stream for another time. But yeah, CoBlocks lets you do that. Okay, so patterns, for people who aren't familiar with the terminology, patterns are kind of like templates. Actually, how are they different from templates, Joe? How would you explain?
That is a great question. The way that they are different is a block pattern is more like an actual template, right? Where it gives you the constructs and the blocks and the way they're laid out. A reusable block is essentially a global block, right? So you create a block and then you place it in a bunch of different places. If you change it, it'll change in all of those places. The way that you would get a reusable block to act like a block pattern is to add it as a global, or add it as a reusable block and then like duplicate it and
Convert it. No, you'd
you
convert it
could,
to a regular block.
yes. Yeah, so and then but so that's like an extra step in there, and then you have to change,
And very dangerous.
yeah,
if
right,
you forget to
because
convert it to a
if you
regular
forget,
block.
exactly, you're changing it everywhere. So yeah, a block pattern is much better, and that's why we're seeing, WordPress and theme developers in general lean into them. But yeah, I would love to see, I'm sure like with full site editing coming, it's probably part of future releases to make block pattern creation a lot easier. But I'll be excited for that day to come.
Yeah, same. So yeah, we used to recommend people use reusable blocks to create templates for our newsletters. And so with this recent update, we can now use patterns, and it's super easy and you don't have to be a developer. So let's go ahead and add a new pattern. And so again, you'll notice that the pattern editor is identical to all the other editors. It's using the block editor. And so you're not going to be greeted with something completely foreign. The name of the pattern doesn't show up in the pattern itself. So let's just call this Joe's Pool Newsletter Template. Okay. And so one kind of quick tip. So we now have the post editor, the newsletter editor, and the pattern editor. And so if you kind of get lost and you're like, where am I? You can just look at this little tab over here. And so right now we're in the pattern editor, and so it says pattern. And that's just kind of an easy way to know where you are.
Nice. I also like that the template design is integrated here, right? We changed the color of the heading and we're seeing that color represented right in the block editor.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Thanks for pointing that out. I should have pointed that out, but yeah, thanks. Okay, so Joe, can you help us out? Like, can you tell me what you want in your newsletter template?
Oh yeah, okay. So my newsletters, they start with something long form. Well, I always greet the reader, of course, first. So I say like, "Hey, name" or whatever. But then under
Okay.
that, it's a long form writing, and it's usually called like "this week's take," colon, and then whatever the take is.
Okay. And then
Yep.
so blah blah blah.
Yep. Blah blah blah. And then under that is another heading that says "latest from me," and it's all of my most recent posts. Which I
Cool.
noticed on the block page. Uh, you have that block, which is great because right now I have a Zapier integration that
All right.
anytime something is published on casabona.org, it goes into an Evernote for me to copy and paste it. Uh, and so it looks like I won't have to do that anymore. I can just use this block.
Yeah. So that's the post embed block. And you can search for posts. So let's say podcast. And let's say why
Yeah.
authors should start a podcast is one of your most recent posts. You edit and it shows up. So
Oh,
the
that's
preview
awesome.
image, the featured image like comes up automatically in the title and the so like a blog preview, post preview. And so if you are super lazy, this is all you need to do. If you're a bit more hardworking and you want to change stuff, then you can edit everything in the
Oh, that's
post editor itself.
super cool. Um,
So, if you want to write your own, uh, you know, ideas or your like a review of the post, you can be like, I thought Joe's post was awesome. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's
And
super cool and very time saving. Um, very time. I'm really good with
and I'm
words
just
this morning.
gonna I'm just gonna go ahead and add another one for reasons I will show you shortly. So there are a bunch of customization options on the right hand column as well. So like table width ratio, this is my preferred kind of ratio, 50-50.
Oh, nice.
And then if you want to do image placement stuff, I remember Nathan. So I was talking with Nathan about this as well, and he wanted to do like one with the image on the left and then one with the image on the right, and that's a bit more
Mm-hmm.
tricky. So you just have to make multiple post embed blocks and
Gotcha.
rotate them that way. I think that it looks better when everything's on the same side. It looks just kind of like more editorial, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for blog posts I'll
And
do
then
like the alternating side for images, but in a newsletter like I'd like that to be not to knock Nathan, obviously. But I think like the quick scanning is I think if everything is lined up like that, quickly scanning is probably a little easier.
yeah, yeah, and so you can add labels as well. So let's say this is like podcast, and this is also podcast. That just kind of again helps with the scanning and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah, I like that a lot.
And you can remove all of that stuff as well. So you can remove the date and the labels if you want. And so that's
Nice.
all kind of here. And you can change the font sizes, border, background color. Let's just do this just to give you an idea of how it looks. Yeah, so there's kind of all that going on as well.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
So all of our blocks have this kind of show height feature as well. And so you can choose if you want to show this block in a blog post or show it in the email newsletter, and you can turn that on and off. And that's just kind of, if you've got like a special promotion that you only want subscribers to see and not people who are reading your newsletter archive 5 months from now, then you can, put that in a special block and hide it from your blog post. So those are just kind of things that you can play around with.
That is super cool. I actually put myself on the screen so people could see my reaction to that because that's another thing that I was wondering about. And you've got it covered. This is great. I'm thoroughly enjoying this demo. So Uh, if
Yay.
nothing else, I am loving it.
Okay, so remembering that we are currently in the patterns editor, we don't want to have these specific posts showing up every single time we use this pattern because that would be really annoying. But the reason why we edit them in the first place is so that we can customize it and we can have examples to look at while we're customizing it. And now that we're happy with how things look, we're going to go ahead and delete these posts, which you can do right here. So this means that our post embed block has been customized in the way we want, and we've removed the posts. And so future posts, when we use this pattern, is going to also populate with the design that we've already done just now. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So we essentially kind of can visually edit the way the posts are laid out, but we delete them, but those settings still stay. So in the future, when I have latest from me, it's not just going to be the same post showing up. I'm going to choose the posts that show up, but they'll still keep those customizations.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Okay, let's keep going. So we've got this week's take, latest from me, and what's next?
Then I have the live stream. This week's live stream or something like that I usually put. And that's always going to have the same text except for the topic and the date. So I didn't provide you with text before that, but it's always something like, join me this week on Wednesday, date at 11 a.m.
Okay, let's go date so that you can remind yourself.
Yeah. On date and time. This week I'll be doing whatever topic, right?
Talking about topic. Cool.
Yep.
And
then you can join at casabona.live. And yeah, so that's great. Like, this is just because, again, in my current editor or in my current ESP, I just duplicate the previous week's newsletter, and then but I've like forgotten to like change the subject and stuff, like all the things that people who send out newsletters regularly do at some point.
All the painful things.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got the live stream, and then what happens?
Let's see. So latest from me, live stream, and then I have a recommendation. So I'll just have recommendation : and then this is another long form piece where I just talk about some tool or book or product that I've been enjoying.
Recommendations from me.
Yeah.
Oops.
And then after that, I sign off. Thanks. Until next week. New line Joe. And then I always have a PS because apparently you're supposed to have a PS.
All right. Do you have any footer signature type stuff? Like if you were forwarded this email, this is where you can go to subscribe and things like that.
Oh, I should have that, shouldn't I? Right? Because that's like how people join. Yeah, I should have that, but I don't. I have whatever ConvertKit just throws in the bottom, right? So it's like, unsubscribe if you want to do that. My address. My P.O. box.
Right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is add a bunch of stuff. So we've got this thing called an author byline, and okay, right now it's my face because I'm logged in.
Yeah.
So it auto populates based on the user. So let's put you there, and you can change the profile picture. Let's find. Are you okay with this one?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, this one. Here we go.
There
Perfect.
We go. Yeah. Me and my B-boy stance there. I think I'm too young to get that reference. But
And we can say, what should we say here? Live
uh,
streaming
yeah.
extraordinaire. Don't even know how to spell that word.
Me
Okay.
neither.
And
It looks like you did a good job though. The
are
browser's
you
not yelling at you.
and are you Jay Casabona on Twitter?
Yes, that is correct.
Right?
Yep.
Cool. So like we've super quickly kind of created this nice, fancy looking sign off for you, and people can follow you if you want, which is always nice. And yeah, so all of this is kind of, you never have to touch this ever again. It's all going to be this way from as long as you use this pattern. So let's. Are you happy with this? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, this looks great.
Cool. Oh, one last thing, maybe while I'm here and trying to show off stuff, we've got this container thing as well. And so with the container, actually, let's do this. So we can put this week's tape into the container. And so this is kind of like, oops, no idea if this is going to show up red or not, but let's hope it does. We'll find out. Yeah, and so this just kind of like puts this week's take into a whole other section, and people can kind of feel like, okay, this is the latest, like this is the writing bit from you, and then like, and so you just kind of like create sections in your newsletter.
Nice.
I'm not sure if that's making sense.
Yeah, yeah. It essentially like sets it apart, right, from everything else, where it's maybe styled a little bit differently.
Yeah. So you can choose if you want it full width or kind of inside a bit. So if you turn the full width off, then it kind of looks more like a call out card. If you turn it on, then it looks like a whole section in the newsletter. You can change a bunch of stuff, and you can again choose to show or hide it, which lets you put, for example, a coupon code in here
Yeah.
or something and hide it from your blog post. Yeah. Okay. So I'm happy with that. I've also added a spacer. So one thing that we've kind of changed in the way we've been building our plugin is that we now let you decide how much space you want in your newsletters. So previously we used to kind of like have set the padding ourselves. But this way, if you want more or less, you can choose, and we just kind of get out of the way and minimize all the space. So in our case, I've just added a little bit right here. And okay, let's save the draft. And if we go to the bottom, you'll see that we've got the chance to send a test email or preview the email in browser. So this is just a pattern, but we do want to see how it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is how it
Nice.
looks.
Nice. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yay. Yeah, so let's publish this, and now we can use it. So if we head back into our main WordPress admin, so we've got your cool template over here, and we've forgotten to give it a category, but it's okay. We can now head into add new newsletter and make use of our cool newsletter template. Okay, so newsletter editor, and again, if you're kind of getting lost, the best way to know where you are is by looking at this little tab over here. So we're in the newsletter editor right now. And if you click on this blue square button, you'll see the patterns tab. And here's our pattern that we created. And so this way you can go right ahead and start writing straight away. It saves you a whole bunch of time. So you write this week's take, latest from me. So again, let's add this post, so everything kind of shows up nicely, and you don't have to touch anything else. Sometimes this happens. It's just
Yeah, it's
Gutenberg and it being annoying, but
yeah. This
it doesn't affect anything. So yeah, so you can actually ignore this completely,
okay.
or you can click this attempt, yeah, and then it just shows up. But even if you don't click it, it still shows up and everything's fine.
Yeah. This
So you don't have to
happens
worry about that.
with the pull quote on my homepage. Every time I edit it, it's like Gutenberg. There must be like some tagging or something. Like Gutenberg just gets confused for a minute and is like, I don't know what this is, and I'm gonna let you know.
Yep. But yeah, you can completely ignore it and it's fine. So yeah, so right now we are in the newsletter editor. You've got, your entire template set up. So you don't actually have to copy and paste like you were doing. You can just write your newsletter. We're live streaming.
Woo. That's awesome.
Ooh. Yeah, and then so once we don't have a title. What should we call this? Newsletter tutorial. Okay. So once you're super happy with your newsletter, happy with how it looks, and you can see that once we've added the post title, it auto-populates as the subject as well. So the last thing, and arguably the most important thing, which we haven't talked about, is how do we send the newsletter? And the way you do that is super simple. Just toggle this little thing over here. And when it's on, you'll also see there's this kind of double check, sanity check thing here. And so these are linked. So if you turn that off, this turns off as well.
Nice.
And that's just to make sure if you are, writing something here and you accidentally hit publish, you're like, oh, what did I just send? Did I just send my newsletter to 1,000 people? So like, this is how you check.
Something
So
I've also
in our case,
I've also done before.
Yeah, same. It's so harrowing, right? Okay, so in our case, we have me and my co-founder in this MailChimp account. So it is totally fine if we make a mistake. But we are happy with how everything looks and we're going to send as newsletter. So we're just going to publish. So sending a newsletter is as simple as publishing a post. Same thing. And if you look over here, it says working on your newsletter and your email newsletter is on its way.
Very nice. Now, does this also get published on the front end?
On the front end, yes. So let's click view newsletter. There we go. So very everything is over here. And so that's another thing that I wanted to mention. You can have the option, let's go back. Ooh, I'm getting my newsletters. So we give you the option to, where are you? Here. Okay. We give you the option to view the published newsletter in your blog theme or with the email HTML only. And so in our case, it was selected to the blog theme. And so that's why you saw what you saw.
Very cool. And so this is the newsletter custom post type, right?
Yes.
But I can also choose in a regular post to send that as a newsletter as well, right? That's kind of what we talked about at the beginning there.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. And so if you do that as a regular post, then there are a bunch of things that you can't do. So, for example, this isn't available. It's all just going to be with the blog theme always, because it's your blog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the patterns don't work as well, just because there are a bunch of conflicts that happen, and we have less control over that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But again, I mean, that's kind of two different purposes, right? One is I'm writing a post that I want to send as a newsletter, and one is I am explicitly sending a newsletter that also I want kind of archived on my website.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool.
Yeah, and so the link is also a lot. If you ignore the preview ID stuff,
Yeah.
the link is also a lot nicer, and so it's much nicer to send this as a newsletter issue link to friends and stuff rather than a bunch
Yeah.
of like A capital X
Right.
125 YZ.
Right. And similarly, like so, again, just because my experience is with ConvertKit, they recently added the ability to add like pages to. So I have the domain build something.email, and you can add newsletters to a public feed now, but customizing that is a little bit hidden and not as flexible, obviously. So if I want to have this nice archive moving forward, this is a much nicer option for me. And then, as we talked about earlier, I can integrate it with Restrict Content Pro in my membership, right? And say like, hey, if you want to read the rest of this
Yeah,
newsletter, become a member, and you can see it here.
yeah,
So,
that's exactly right.
awesome. Well, we are at the top of the hour. Lesley, were there? I don't have the outline in front of me because I'm bad at this. But were there other things that you wanted to show off before we wrap things up?
I guess we should probably show what the email we made looks like.
Oh yeah.
So let me just
Oh, and I
do
just
that.
switched back to the screen, right? So, yeah.
There we go.
If you have any questions about Newsletter Glue, drop them in the chat now so we can get them answered. There's about a 30-second delay between when I'm saying this and when you're seeing it. So, if you drop them in the chat now, we'll make sure to get any questions answered. All
Okay,
right.
so we're ready with the email. So this is how the email looks, pretty much the same way it was. It looked on when we were
Yeah,
building it, I guess. So we've got your logo, this week's take, the post, and yeah, little
looks
seamlessly
good.
sent.
And then I do see that the footer stuff is automatically added, right? Because like you do need
Yeah,
to include like a way to unsubscribe and things like that. And at least in the United States, I think you need
yeah,
to like publish your business address, um, in accordance with like the Can Spam Act and all that fun stuff. So it's nice that we don't have to think about adding that in the post
yeah.
editor, right? So cool.
So you can, if you wanted to, you can also use tags and stuff like that. We're going to be building that functionality, like a way to easily drag and drop and like click to add your address and unsubscribe links and stuff like that, so that you can bypass the automatic footer stuff that Mailchimp adds. That's coming in like 2 weeks.
Nice.
But if you want to, actually, I shouldn't talk about this. No, as in talk about, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, tags are coming in 2 weeks' time, and then that lets you bypass this stuff. But if you're on a free Mailchimp account, you can't bypass it
Right.
because they want to have their branding over
Yeah.
there, and that's the same thing with all the other email
Yeah.
service providers.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
actually, while you're on this, we just had a question come in from Productivity Portfolio. Is it possible to add variables like hi, comma, name? Um, is that part of the tags that are rolling out, or is that part of current functionality?
Yep. They are part of the tags that are rolling out soon in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Fingers crossed. It's so okay. So the thing that I was going to say, which I said that I wasn't going to say, is that there is a small chance that if you just kind of add, the name and stuff like that, like
Oh,
it might
like
work.
yeah,
Your
like the
might pick it up,
the
but I
Mailchimp
take
smart
no
tags. Yeah,
responsibility. Yeah.
gotcha.
So
Yeah,
if
that's
it
like
doesn't work, I
that's like
don't blame me.
not a risk worth taking necessarily unless you test it thoroughly, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean
So I
theoretically, right?
know
This
we
still,
have
yeah.
customers who are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have customers who do that, but I don't take responsibility for that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's like theoretically it is going through the ESP processor first, but if they are doing something like escaping anything that comes from an external source, then you might just get like weird looking tags sent in your email, which again, it's something that many people have experienced before, but try to avoid it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only question I've seen come in. I have one more question, and then maybe we can tell people where they can find Newsletter Glue. Your mileage may vary. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Um, but it sounds like tags are officially rolling out in a couple of weeks, so we won't have to
Yeah.
run that risk. My question is, do you test in multiple email clients, or is that like you kind of trust the ESPs to do that for you? Like, do you have like a computer with
Test
like
which part?
like do you look at the emails sent from Newsletter Glue in like Gmail and Outlook and Newton, or is that generally is that like a big pain in the neck? Because that's like one of the reasons I never got into like email newsletter design. I was like, I don't feel like doing this. So
Yeah, so we use a cute quality assurance tool called Testi, Testi. They're the big names in this industry are Email on Acid and Litmus, both of which I think are like a couple $100 a month. And I love to be at a point where we can afford that, but we just
yeah,
can't right now. So we use a smaller software, which is also really good, called Testi. And actually, we spent like the better part of the first quarter of this year just dealing with that, like making our templates and our HTML like way more robust and smaller as well. So with Gmail, for example, they have clipping. So past I think like 102 kilobytes, the email just gets clipped, and Gmail tells you to look at it in the web version if you want to see the full email. And so we've been like working hard to make sure that the emails are as small as possible. We're not adding any unnecessary stuff. So like we did a whole bunch of that painful stuff in the first part of this year.
gotcha. That's super interesting, and again, sounds like my nightmare. So kudos to you for doing the work. If you want to check out Newsletter Glue, you can do that at newsletterglue.com. Lesley, if people want to follow you or learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter, where I'm like there way too much. Lesley_pizza. I'm talking crap all day long on there. And you can also follow the official Newsletter Glue account. It's at Newsletter Glue on Twitter as well, and I post lots of updates. So follow both those accounts.
Excellent. All right, and those are all up on the screen here now. I think I can stretch this out so it's like one line. Maybe not.
Thanks, Joe.
But yeah, so Lesley, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. This was such a great demo, and I look forward to seeing everything that you start doing in the future. And of course, as soon as ConvertKit gets added, I will be first on that list, because I'm very excited to kind of bring the newsletter stuff into my membership site. I think it'll make things a lot easier for me. Awesome.
Nice. Thanks so much for having me on, Joe. And thanks for being a whiz with the buttons and switching stuff so that I don't have to worry about that.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure here in the control center over at Good House Media. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Once again, if you want to get notifications when I go live, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you want to get an archive of all of the live streams, you can become a member over at buildsomething.club. And thanks so much for watching. Until next time, get out there and build something.